今天要分享的改编故事是东施效颦，希望能在学习英语的路上给你带来收获。你的每个点赞和订阅都是对我莫大的鼓励。那么，咱们开始吧。
She was the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. Her name was Shishir. She lived in the estate during the spring and autumn period. People traveled from far away just to catch a glimpse of her. They said her walk was like a willow branch in the wind. They said her skin was like white jade. They said her eyes could make a river stop flowing. But Shishir had a problem. She suffered from a pain in her chest. It was a sickness that came and went without warning. When the pain hit, she would stop walking. She would press one hand against her chest. Her eyebrows would come together in a soft frown. This was not something she did on purpose. It was simply her body's reaction to the pain. She could not help it. But the people in her village noticed something strange. When Shishir frowned and pressed her chest, she did not look pained. She looked even more beautiful. The frown did not make her face ugly. It added a kind of gentle sadness to her look. People found it moving. They would stop and stare. They would whisper to each other. They said, even in pain, Shishir was the most graceful woman in the world. Now, in the same village, there lived another woman. History does not record her real name. We only know her as Dongshir. People called her the ugly woman of the East Side. She was the opposite of Shishir in every way. Where Shishir was graceful, Dongshir was clumsy. Where Shishir was slender, Dongshir was broad. Where Shishir's skin was fair, Dongshir's was rough. Dongshir knew she was not beautiful. The villagers made sure she knew. They laughed when she walked by. Children would point and giggle. The young men never looked her way. She spent most of her days alone, watching the world from the edge of the village. One day, Dongshir saw Shishir walking through the village. Shishir had one hand on her chest. Her eyebrows were pressed together in that famous frown. She moved slowly, with her head tilted slightly down. The people around her stopped. They smiled. They whispered in admiration. Dongshir stood at the side of the road. She watched everything. She watched the way people looked at Shishir. She watched the respect on their faces. She watched the attention Shishir commanded without saying a word. And in that moment, Dongshir understood something. Or at least, she thought she did. She thought the secret to Shishir's beauty was the frown. She thought that if she could frown the same way, if she could press her hand against her chest the same way, then people would look at her the same way. They would stop for her. They would admire her. She believed beauty was just a set of movements. A trick anyone could learn. So she decided to copy Shishir exactly. The next morning, Dongshir left her small house. She pressed her hand against her chest. She pulled her eyebrows together. She made her face look tight and pained. She walked through the village the same way Shishir walked. Slow. Delicate. With her head down. She felt proud of herself. She thought she had figured out the great secret. But the people did not stop to admire her. The rich man who lived at the entrance of the village saw her coming from far away. He took one look at Dongshi, with her twisted face and her stiff movements. He did not smile. He did not whisper to his neighbors. He went inside his house and pulled the heavy wooden door shut. He locked it tight. He did not come out until she was gone. A poor farmer was walking home with his wife and children. He saw Dongshi coming toward them. His wife grabbed the children's hands. The farmer turned his family around. They walked quickly in the other direction. They did not want to be near her. Everyone avoided her. Doors closed as she passed. People crossed to the other side of the road. Dongshi did not understand what was happening. She frowned harder. She pressed her chest tighter. She tried to walk even more slowly, even more delicately. But the more she tried, the worse it got. Her movements looked stiff and fake. Her frown looked like anger, not sadness. Her whole body seemed to fight against the pose she was trying to hold. She went home that evening more alone than ever. What she did not understand was this. Dongshir's beauty was not in the frown. The frown was just the result of her pain. People loved Dongshir because she was Dongshir. Her face, her body, her spirit, these things had been formed over her entire life. The frown was just a small expression on top of all that. It worked for her because it came from a real place. It was natural. Dongshi tried to take the small part and make it the whole thing. She ignored who she was. She tried to become someone else by copying a single surface detail. That is the heart of the story. The philosopher Zhuangzi told this story more than 2,000 years ago. He used it to explain a larger idea. He was talking about people who try to copy the ways of the ancient kings without understanding the spirit behind those ways. He said it was like taking a boat and trying to push it across dry land. The boat worked in water. On land, it was useless. The same thing happens when we try to copy someone without understanding why they do what they do. Think about the people in your own life. Maybe you have seen someone try to dress like a famous person. They buy the same clothes. They wear the same hairstyle. But it does not look right. Something is missing. Maybe you have tried to talk like someone you admire. You used the same words. You tried to copy their tone. But it came out wrong. People noticed. It felt fake. That is Dongshir's mistake. She saw the surface and thought that was everything. There is a Chinese saying that comes from this story. We call it Dongshi Xiaopin. It means trying to imitate someone in a way that makes you look worse than before. It is a warning against blind copying. It reminds us that we each have our own strengths. Trying to throw those away to become a bad version of someone else is not progress. It is a loss. But let us be fair to Dongshi for a moment. She was not stupid. She was lonely. She saw how people treated Dongshi. She wanted that for herself. Is that so strange? Have you ever wanted to be like someone else? Have you ever looked at another person and wished you had their confidence, their style, their ease with the world, that feeling is not wrong. It is human. The problem is not wanting to improve. The problem is thinking improvement means becoming someone else. Dongshi did not try to find her own beauty. She did not ask what made her special. She did not work on her own strengths. She looked at Shishir and thought, I will just do what she does. That path always leads to the same place. It leads to closed doors. It leads to people walking away. The lesson is not that we should never learn from others. The lesson is that we must learn in the right way. We must understand why something works before we try to apply it to ourselves. We must take the principle, not just the surface. We must adapt what we learn to fit who we are. Shishir was beautiful because she was herself. Dongshi was not ugly because of her face. She became ugly when she tried to be someone she was not. The richest people in the village did not leave their houses because of how Dongshi looked. They left because of what she was doing. They saw a woman trying so hard to be something else that she lost whatever she had. There is a dignity in being yourself. Even if you are not the most beautiful person in the village. Even if people do not stop and stare when you walk by. Being real is better than being a bad copy. So when you learn from others, learn deeply. Do not just copy the surface. Understand why they do what they do. Understand what makes it work. Then find your own way to express that truth. That is how you grow without losing yourself. And if you ever feel like Dongshi, standing at the side of the road, watching someone else get all the attention, remember this. The goal is not to become them. The goal is to become more fully you. The philosopher Zhuangzi told this story to warn against blind imitation. But he also understood something else. He understood that true wisdom comes from knowing yourself. When you know who you are, you know what fits and what does not. You know what to take from others and what to leave behind. Dongshi did not know herself. That was her real problem. She saw a frown and thought it was magic. She saw beauty and thought it was a trick. She spent her energy trying to be someone else instead of spending it on becoming a better version of herself. Do not make that mistake. Watch. Learn. Take inspiration from people you admire. But always bring it back to yourself. Ask yourself, does this fit me? Does this express who I am? If the answer is yes, then make it your own. If the answer is no, let it go. There is only one you. That is your greatest advantage. No one else can be you. No one else can offer what you offer. Shishir had her beauty. Dongshi had something else. Maybe she had strength. Maybe she had humor. Maybe she had a kind heart. We will never know, because she spent her life trying to be Shishir instead of being herself. Be yourself. That is the only version of you that the world needs.
下集请移步主页观看。